Shocking soulmate update: the third party is losing control as your soulmate finally sees the truth. My beloved child, listen carefully because this message is about a situation that has been confusing your heart for far too long. There has been a hidden emotional battle taking place around your soulmate, and what once looked stable may now be showing cracks that cannot easily be covered. The third party may have believed that everything was under control, but your soulmate is beginning to see things differently. My beloved child, there are moments when a person can no longer ignore what their heart has been telling them. They can distract themselves, stay busy, remain silent, and pretend everything is normal, but eventually truth becomes louder than avoidance. Your soulmate may have reached that moment. Something has shifted inside them. They are beginning to recognize the difference between what they were told and what they actually feel. They are beginning to understand that not every connection that looks secure from the outside is emotionally fulfilling on the inside. My beloved child, your soulmate has been carrying questions that they may never have spoken aloud. Why do I still think about this person? Why does my heart become unsettled when I remember them? Why do certain memories refuse to disappear? Why do I feel emotionally distant even when I am physically present somewhere else? Why does something still feel unfinished? These questions may have followed your soulmate through ordinary days and quiet nights. They may have tried to push them away, but the questions kept returning. My beloved child, when a person repeatedly tries to silence an honest feeling, that feeling often becomes stronger. Your soulmate may have discovered this firsthand. The more they attempted to convince themselves that the past was finished, the more they realized that something remained unresolved. This does not mean you should assume exactly what they are thinking or predict a guaranteed reunion. It means there may be an emotional process taking place that you cannot see. And sometimes the greatest changes happen where nobody else can see them. My beloved child, the third party may have sensed this change. Perhaps they noticed that your soulmate became quieter. Perhaps they noticed that conversations changed. Perhaps they noticed that affection became inconsistent or that your soulmate seemed mentally somewhere else. When a person senses that someone is emotionally withdrawing, fear can appear. The third party may begin asking more questions, seeking more reassurance, or attempting to hold the relationship together more tightly. But love cannot be secured through fear. A person can stay physically present while their heart is searching for something else. My beloved child, your soulmate is beginning to understand that. They are starting to look beyond appearances and ask themselves whether their current situation truly reflects what they want. This realization may be uncomfortable, because truth often requires difficult decisions. It may mean admitting that mistakes were made. It may mean acknowledging that someone was hurt. It may mean accepting responsibility for choices that cannot be undone. Your soulmate may be afraid of that responsibility, but fear cannot erase truth. My beloved child, there may have been a time when your soulmate believed that avoiding you was the easiest solution. They may have thought that distance would make the feelings disappear. They may have believed that choosing another person would automatically close the emotional chapter with you. But emotions do not always obey decisions. The heart does not simply delete meaningful experiences because someone tells it to move on. Memories remain. Lessons remain. Feelings may change, but unresolved emotions can continue asking for attention. My beloved child, your soulmate may now be remembering the moments they once dismissed. They may remember conversations with you. They may remember your patience. They may remember the way you understood things they never explained. They may remember the comfort of being able to speak openly. They may remember the small details that seemed insignificant at the time but now feel meaningful. Sometimes a person recognizes value only after distance gives them perspective. Your soulmate may be gaining that perspective now. My beloved child, but I want you to protect your heart. Do not turn this message into a reason to chase your soulmate. Do not contact them repeatedly. Do not interfere with their current relationship. Do not attempt to create jealousy. Do not try to force them to choose you. If they are truly seeing the truth, they must reach that understanding themselves. A decision made under pressure is not the same as a decision made from genuine clarity. Your role is to remain centered while they deal with their own choices. My beloved child, you have already carried enough emotional weight. You have spent nights wondering whether they remember you. You have questioned whether the third party is stronger, more important, or more loved. But hear this clearly, you do not need to compare yourself with anyone. Your value is not measured by another person's attention. You do not become more worthy because someone chooses you, and you do not become less worthy because someone is confused. Your worth is constant. Your dignity is yours. Your future is yours. My beloved child, the third party may be losing control because control was never the foundation of genuine love. If their connection with your soulmate requires constant monitoring, constant reassurance, constant pressure, or constant fear, then something underneath may already be unstable. Your soulmate may be noticing this. They may be realizing that peace cannot be manufactured through control. They may be realizing that a relationship should not feel like an emotional prison. And as they recognize this, memories of the freedom and emotional connection they once felt with you may become stronger. My beloved child, perhaps you were someone with whom they could simply be themselves. Perhaps they did not need to perform. Perhaps they felt understood without having to explain every emotion. Perhaps that is what they miss most. Not simply your presence, but the version of themselves they felt when they were around you. This realization can be powerful. A person may spend a long time searching for happiness in external circumstances before realizing that emotional compatibility matters deeply. Your soulmate may be beginning to understand that now. My beloved child, there may also be regret. Your soulmate may regret choosing silence when they should have communicated. They may regret allowing another person's influence to affect their choices. They may regret not appreciating you when you were available. They may regret assuming that you would always remain emotionally available no matter how long they stayed away. This realization can create fear. They may wonder whether they waited too long. They may wonder whether you have healed. They may wonder whether you would even answer if they reached out. My beloved child, if that moment comes, you do not need to decide immediately what their return means. Listen. Observe. Let them explain. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to protect your heart. You are allowed to say that trust must be rebuilt. You are allowed to require consistency. My beloved child, never confuse an emotional confession with a complete transformation. Words can be sincere and still be incomplete. Someone can genuinely miss you and still need to work on themselves. Someone can regret their actions and still need to prove that they have changed. If your soulmate returns, let their behavior speak. Let them demonstrate maturity. Let them show that they understand what happened. Let them take responsibility without blaming everyone else. Let them make room for honest communication. That is how you will know whether the truth they are seeing is becoming real change. My beloved child, perhaps the third party has been telling your soulmate that you are part of the past. Perhaps they have tried to convince them that returning to you would be a mistake. Perhaps they have tried to make your soulmate feel guilty for remembering you. But your soulmate is beginning to recognize that another person's opinion cannot determine their inner truth. They must make their own choices. They must live with those choices. They must decide what kind of relationship they want. My beloved child, this is why the third party may feel threatened. Not necessarily because something dramatic has happened, but because they sense that your soulmate's mind is no longer completely controlled by the story they were given. Your soulmate is asking questions. And questions can change everything. Once someone begins questioning an assumption, they may start seeing details they previously ignored. They may notice inconsistencies. They may recognize patterns. They may remember moments when something did not feel right. And slowly, the picture becomes clearer. My beloved child, truth often arrives gradually. It may not come through one dramatic revelation. Sometimes it comes through a series of small realizations. A conversation feels different. A promise is broken. A reaction seems strange. A memory returns. A question remains unanswered. And eventually, the person realizes that they have been ignoring what was in front of them. Your soulmate may be experiencing that process. My beloved child, you may have felt invisible during this period, but your absence may have taught your soulmate something your presence could not. When you were there, perhaps they assumed you would remain there. When you became distant, they had to confront what your absence actually felt like. They may have discovered that replacing your presence was not as simple as they imagined. They may have learned that attention from someone else does not automatically create emotional fulfillment. They may have realized that familiar memories cannot be erased by entering another connection. My beloved child, this does not mean you should wait for them. Continue living. Continue healing. Continue becoming stronger. The healthiest position you can take is one where your happiness does not depend on whether they return. If they return, you evaluate the situation from a place of strength. If they do not, you continue forward. Either way, you are protected because you have stopped making someone else's decision the center of your life. My beloved child, perhaps this is the greatest transformation taking place. You once wanted your soulmate to see your value. Now you are learning to see it yourself. You once wanted them to understand your pain. Now you are learning how to heal it without their permission. You once wanted them to choose you. Now you are learning to choose yourself. And that change can completely transform the dynamic. My beloved child, when you stop chasing someone, you create space for truth. If they truly want to come back, they must cross the distance themselves. If they truly value you, they must show it. If they truly regret the past, they must acknowledge it. If they truly want another chance, they must build trust again. You do not need to carry their responsibility. My beloved child, your soulmate may currently be at a crossroads. One path represents familiarity, fear, and continued avoidance. Another path represents honesty, accountability, and emotional truth. The second path may be more difficult, but it may also be more authentic. They may hesitate because they know choosing truth can disappoint people. They may fear judgment. They may fear conflict. They may fear being alone. But eventually, every person must decide whether they are willing to live according to fear or according to honesty. My beloved child, you cannot make that choice for them. Let them make it. Your strength is in allowing them to face their own consequences. If they choose courage, they will approach the situation honestly. If they choose avoidance, they may remain where they are. Either way, their actions will reveal their readiness. My beloved child, do not be fooled by sudden emotional intensity. If your soulmate reaches out after a long silence, you may feel overwhelmed. You may think, this is the moment I have been waiting for. But remember that one message is only the beginning of a conversation. One conversation is only the beginning of rebuilding trust. One apology is only the beginning of accountability. Give things time. Let reality reveal itself. My beloved child, you have learned that promises can sound beautiful while actions remain unchanged. You have learned that someone can say they care while behaving inconsistently. You have learned that chemistry alone cannot create stability. Use those lessons. They were painful, but they made you wiser. Do not throw away your wisdom simply because your heart becomes excited again. My beloved child, if your soulmate truly sees the truth, they will not ask you to compete with the third party. They will handle their existing situation responsibly before asking you to become involved. They will not drag you into secret conversations that leave you feeling guilty or confused. They will not expect you to accept half-love. They will make their intentions clear. And if they are not ready to do that, you can step back. Your heart deserves better than being someone's hidden option. My beloved child, there is a difference between being someone's secret and being someone's private healing space. You should never become the place where someone runs when their other relationship becomes difficult, only to return to that relationship when things improve. You deserve consistency. You deserve a clear place in someone's life. You deserve someone who can stand beside you openly. My beloved child, the third party may lose control because your soulmate is no longer responding to fear in the same way. Perhaps they used to feel guilty whenever they thought about you. Perhaps they used to suppress memories because they feared conflict. But now they may be asking whether suppressing their truth has actually made them happier. And the answer may be no. This realization can create a major internal shift. My beloved child, your soulmate may begin spending more time alone, thinking deeply about the past. They may replay conversations. They may wonder what would have happened if they had made different decisions. They may imagine what life would be like if they had chosen honesty earlier. These thoughts can be emotional. but they are also opportunities for growth. My beloved child, sometimes regret becomes the doorway to maturity. A person who never regrets anything may never examine themselves. But a person who honestly asks, "Where did I go wrong?" has already begun changing. Your soulmate may be asking that question. They may be recognizing their own role in the situation. They may be realizing that blaming circumstances is easier than accepting responsibility. And accepting responsibility can be the beginning of genuine change. My beloved child, if your soulmate eventually speaks to you about the third party, listen carefully to how they describe the situation. Do they take responsibility? Do they speak respectfully about everyone involved? Do they avoid unnecessary drama? Do they acknowledge their mistakes? These details matter. Someone who has truly grown will not need to make another person the villain in order to make themselves the hero. They will simply say, "I made choices, and I understand their consequences." That is maturity. My beloved child, you are not being asked to hate the third party. You are not being asked to celebrate their difficulties. You are being asked to stay outside the conflict. Their relationship is their responsibility. Your healing is your responsibility. Your future is your responsibility. Keep those boundaries clear. My beloved child, there may be moments when you feel tempted to search for updates, look at social media, analyze pictures, or interpret every small sign. But that behavior can steal your peace. You do not need constant information to know your worth. You do not need to know what they are doing every hour. Let the people involved live their lives while you build yours. The truth will become clear through direct actions when the time is right. My beloved child, perhaps you have been asking whether your soulmate still has feelings. The deeper question is whether they are capable of handling those feelings responsibly. Feelings alone are not enough. A person can feel love and still behave poorly. A person can miss you and still be inconsistent. A person can have strong emotions and still choose fear. What matters is whether emotion becomes responsible action. My beloved child, this is why you must watch what happens next instead of trying to control it. The next chapter will reveal more than the past ever could. If your soulmate truly sees the truth, their behavior will gradually change. They may communicate more honestly. They may become more decisive. They may stop hiding behind excuses. They may take responsibility for the distance. They may seek a genuine conversation. These are signs of maturity. My beloved child, and if none of that happens, you will also receive an answer. Silence itself can eventually become information. You do not have to remain trapped in uncertainty forever. Your life can continue even without a final explanation from someone else. Sometimes closure comes from accepting what a person's actions have already told you. My beloved child, there is power in reaching a point where you no longer need to force an ending or force a reunion. You simply allow reality to be reality. If your soulmate comes back with honesty, you can decide whether to open the door. If they remain distant, you can close that chapter peacefully. Neither outcome reduces your value. My beloved child, you are entering a season where your standards matter more than your longing. You are beginning to understand that being loved is not enough if the relationship is unhealthy. You need respect. You need communication. You need emotional safety. You need consistency. You need a person who can stand beside you without making you question where you belong. My beloved child, your soulmate may be learning these lessons too. Perhaps the third-party situation is forcing them to understand what they truly want. Perhaps they are realizing that avoiding difficult choices only creates bigger problems later. Perhaps they are realizing that keeping everyone happy is impossible when they are not being honest with themselves. This may be painful, but it can also be transformative. My beloved child, if the third party is losing control, let them lose control without becoming part of the struggle. You do not need to win. You need to remain peaceful. You do not need to prove that you are better. You need to remain authentic. You do not need to convince your soulmate. They need to convince themselves. My beloved child, your greatest strength is patience without obsession. Patience says, I will allow life to reveal itself. Obsession says, I cannot live until I know what happens. Choose patience. You can care about someone without checking on them constantly. You can hope without putting your life on hold. You can love without losing your identity. My beloved child, perhaps one day your soulmate will look back and realize that they misunderstood your silence. They may have assumed that because you stopped chasing, you stopped caring. But your silence may have been healing. You may have been learning to respect yourself. You may have been giving yourself the space to become emotionally stronger. And when they see that strength, they may recognize that